We had about 11 students, but I think we can continue so that we make the most of the time we had. And I have Vishwa, Loide, I have Napa, I'm missing Valisha. Okay, just trying to, all right. So let's look at the solution for what we just did here. So over here, we will see that A and B is not possible. And I will also explain why it is not possible so that we can just see here. So we look at we look at the column, okay, of A, if it's A and B. So we start with the column of A. This is the column, and we look at the row of B, and we notice that 2 is not equal. It's not equal to 3. So if it's not equal, we cannot multiply. And that said, the first answer of Rishua, sorry about that. I just want to quickly go to my red pen. So Rishiwa's answer is correct. Okay. And we continue to the next one, B times C. So with B times C, we do the same thing again. We will look at B, we go to the column of B, and then you go to the row of C. So 2 is again not equals to 3, so we cannot. That is what we have. And with that, Napa on this one, Apume, this answer is wrong. And then we continue C and D. So for C and D, we look at the column of C, and we look at the row of D. So 3 equals to 3. So if 3 is equals to 3, yes, definitely we can add or multiply them, not add. We can multiply them. So for Valisha, this answer is correct. And then we proceed. D and E. So D and E, we follow the same rule. So it may look boring, but this is important to check. Otherwise, it will be a problem later on. Sorry. So 3 is not equals to 2. So this one is not possible. And if I check over here with Reuther, that is correct. And the last one is A and E. So we already have A, we have E. So I'm just going to use this color over here and to show you that A is 2. So 2 is definitely equals to 2 because E is having a 2 over there. So A and E is possible. And the last answer for Napu was correct. Okay, so if this was the examination and we looked at this answer over here is what you were given, and even though your calculations and things are correct, imagine just because you did not check the first step, everything is wrong. And this is how a lot of students lose a lot of marks regarding matrices as well. So you can see that the basic things where we check our dimension is a very, very important task. And without checking it, whatever you do afterwards there is going to be problematic. And you might even waste a lot of time in examination. All right. So that's basically the activity that we had. And thank you for the guys who participated. And I hope those who did not participate, you can also see how did we come up with our answers. And that is basically how we did it Okay. Okay, so this is now just showing you that if we multiply the ones that are possible, C times D, since we check that the 3 is equal to the 3, then we know that this will also be a 3 by 3. That is our answer. Okay, and for the A times E, we have A is 3 by 2, 2 by 2. So the 2's there is what is equals to, and the product will be the 3 and the 2. Okay. So that is what our answer will look like at the end. So this activity in between here, this is how we check. How we check our answer. So how do we check if our answer is correct after we multiply a matrix? Is we take the ones we started with and see that, okay, we must have the first matrix number of rows, and we must have the second matrix number of columns. All right. So that is how we will check our answers at the end. Now let's go into how do we actually do the calculations. Now that we know how to check, now we check how we do the calculations. Okay, to find the product is the answer of multiplication. We multiply corresponding elements of each row by the elements of each column of B. So each row of A by the column of B. That's why we take the row, we take the column of A and then check the row of B. But when we multiply the row of A by the column of B and add them together at the end. So for A times B or AB, the following example show you how to the calculation is done. So this is a problem. So let's look at it step by step. Okay. I will explain this probably 2 times so that we just get the feeling of it. So over here we have matrix A, okay, which we can see is a 2 by 2, all right? It's important, 1, 2, 1, 2, okay, 2 rows, 2 columns, right? And then we have matrix B over here, which we can see it is a 2 by 3, all right? 2 by 3, 1, 2 rows, that's the 2 rows, 1, 2, 3 columns. Okay, so the first thing we have to do with this matrix is we have to check if we can multiply it or not. So we check that one first. All right, so we notice that the column of A is 2 and the row of B is 2. So 2 equals to 2. So that is correct. So that means that our resulting matrix will have a 2 by 3. So that means this 2 and this 3 will be from our answer matrix. So this 2 and 3, I must keep it somewhere just so that I can remember my answer must be like that. Okay. Let me just clear these drawings. So I have to keep it somewhere. I'm just going to keep it here at the side, just so that I know at the end, if I get an answer, it must be a 2 by 3 matrix. All right. It almost looks the same as B. All right. So now let's look at the multiplication of A and B. So we said that we will go row by column. Okay. Row by column. All right. So I will repeat that again. Row by column, row by column. Okay, I say it again. We are multiplying like this. We are multiplying the row by the column. Okay, so and then we will do again the row by the column. Then we will do again the row by the column. Okay, so that's how our multiplication will work. All right. Once we have finished the first row with each of the columns, then we will do the same thing again for the second row. The row by the column, the row by the column, the row by the column. Okay. So that is how our multiplication works. Very different from addition and subtraction, where we just take the element in this position minus the element or add with the element in that position and we get our answer. So this is where the tricky part comes from. Okay, so let's get started with row and columns. So I said let R equals to row and C equals to column. This is just so that we abbreviate easily so that we can see what elements are in there. So we have row 1 times column 1. That is what we will have there. Okay, that's row 1. That's column 1. Okay, so first we will look at what is in row 1. There's an element 3. Okay, that 3 will be used to multiply the first element also in that column. That is the 5. So the first element multiplies the first element. Okay, the second element multiplies the second element. Okay, so the first element in the row will multiply the first element in the column. The second element in the row will multiply the second element in the column, and then we will add them together. Is that clear? I need your voices so that if I have to repeat this again, let me repeat it again. Is that one clear?
Clear.
Okay. So remember these rules. The first element in the row multiplies the first element in the column. The second element in the row multiplies the second element in the column. And you will notice that we are working according to what do we call it? The rows here. So we are currently in row 1 over here. Okay, so now everything in our answer will be in row 1. Okay, we will currently in column 1 over here. So everything will be in column 1 over here. Okay, so if we continue from here, we are now still in row 1, which is this row again, but now we must go to column 2. Okay, so we are going to column 2. So that's why you will see in our answer, we are still at row 1, but now we are multiplying column 2. So we will reset. The first element in row 1 multiplies the first element in column 2, and then we will put it down there. Okay, the second element in row 1 multiplies the second element in column 2. All right, so that is what we have over there. The 3 is the second element. The -1 is the second element in column 2. Okay, so that is what we have there, and then we must add them together. And then we are still in row 1 because there's another column waiting for us. So we will have the first element in row 1 multiplies the first element in column 3. That's what we write down over here. And then the second element in row 1 multiplies the second element in column 3. Okay, and we write it down there. And then we have to add these things together later on, whatever we get the answers from. So now we are done with row 1 because there's no more columns to multiply. So we will go to row 2. So row 2 is over here. So, and then we start the process again. So the first element in row 2 will multiply the first element in column 1. And then we will see our row 2, column 1 will get the answer over there. So we get that 2 times 5, but row 2 has another element. So the second element in row 2 will multiply the second element in column 1. And then we also bring that one down here. All right. Then we do the same for row 2, column 2. This column is finished, so we go to the next column. So the second element, first element in column row 2 multiplies the first element in column 2, and the second element in row 2 multiplies the second element in column 2. We write them there. Row 2, column 2. That's what we write. Okay. So we are still at row 2 over here. We are still at column 2 over here. Okay, that's why you will see the answers appear in row 2, column 2 over here. All right, so we go to row 2, column 3. So I'm still at row 2, column 3. The 2 will multiply the 7. That is the first element. That's what we put in there. Plus the second element, which is the 4, which multiplies the 0. And that is what we have over there. That is the second element. So once you have written this form out, okay, now please note a very important note is in my explanations, I am currently putting in this row 1, column 1, and like this, these things I'm putting in here. whenever you are doing your calculations, you don't put these things in here. This is just for me to explain to you what answer is coming in that position. So you will only have the parts that I have here in red. You will only have this part, this part, this part, and this part. Okay. This is the parts that you will have in your matrix. You don't need this part. This part is just for me to show you that where am I getting these numbers from. Okay. So then this answer here, we now simplify it. Okay, let me just clear the drawings. This answer here, we simplify it and we write it nicely in this part here. So the row 1, column 1, we need a nice answer here. So that is 3 times 5 plus 3 times minus 2. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15 plus 3 times minus 2 is 6, minus 6. So 15 plus minus 6. We get a 15 minus 6, which is 9. So in our clean matrix, we put the answer of row 1 by column 1. All right. Then we do the same thing for the second one, row 1 by column 2. 3 times 6 is 18 times 3 times minus 1, that's minus 3. And 18 minus 3 is 15. And we put it in there, row 1, column 2. See, row 1, column 2. And then we do the same thing for the next one. 3 times 7 is 21 plus 3 times 0 is 0. So we get our 21. We write it in there. All right. Then we do the same thing now. We simplify this part over here. We are now going to the second row, column 1, which is this part over here. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2 times 4 times minus 2 is minus 8. So 10 plus minus 8 or 10 minus 8 is 2. And then we write our answer in there. All right. Then we check again the second one, second row, second column, which is this space over here. 2 times 6, 12 plus 4 times minus 1, minus 4. So 12 minus 4 is 8. And then we write it in there. Then we do the last part, row 2 times column 3. 2 times 7 is 14 plus 4 times 0 is 0. So 14 plus 0 is 14. Then we write it in there. All right. So that is basically what we do when we multiply. All right. And just to mention here at the end, we check how many rows and how many columns do we have. I have 1 row, 2 rows. So R is 2. There you can see my R is 2. It's over there. It's correct. How many columns do I have? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 columns. So C is 3. There you can see I have my 3 columns over here. So this matrix is a 2 by 3. And you can see that the way we looked at our answer before, it is exactly the same. So we know that this calculation is correct. Now, where the problem comes, I quickly want to discuss problems with calculating and mistakes that learners always make. So learner always makes a mistake by sometimes you go column and then you multiply it with a row. Okay, that's already wrong. Your answer is wrong. All right. Also, if you go a row and then you multiply it by a row, your answer is wrong. If you go a row, you multiply it by a column, right? But let's say let's use row 2 because row 1 is already used. Let's say we use row 2. You multiply it by this column 1. Okay, and now you use 2 multiplied by 5, and then you also say 2 multiplied by minus 2. Already wrong. So you can see that there's so many ways to just get this wrong. Okay, so many ways to get it wrong, and only one way to do it correctly. Now, this is why I was explaining before, and I said that the only way you will get your matrix multiplication correct is by practicing. If you do not practice anything, there's no way anybody can get this right. Even if you just use a textbook and read it, it's useless. You have to practice and practice, and then from the practicing part, then we can now at least see where you are struggling, and then from there on we can assist and get through it. And trust me, this question is in the exam. It's there. You have to show that you understand matrices. And the marks, you can see like here, if we have to mark this from the matrices, right? We will check marks over here. Normally this is like 2 marks. This is like 2 marks also over there, and the total marks here will be either 4 or more, 4 marks or more. All right. So some people are checking each individual one here. They can also mark like each of this is correct. That's 6. And then your final answer over here, they can give you 2 marks again, and then it can also equal to 8 marks. So, and you saw just by getting one thing wrong, you lose most of your marks. Just by multiplying wrong, you lose all of your marks. And that's 8 marks, probably out of 120 paper for one question. And maybe if the next question requires you to use this new matrix, probably to add it to something else, then you even lose more marks again. So this is why I'm stressing that if you do not do the work, there's no way you will understand what it is you need to do. So over here, I will post this activity again on Google Classroom, and you will have to check, like we did with the first activity. If you cannot multiply it, you will say undefined or cannot multiply. So the first one is just here. This one, you will first see if you can multiply it. If you can, you will write down the answer on this side or on a piece of paper and upload like Loida did. Loida, please share how you are answering your papers, the questions with your friends, so that they can also follow suit. So we have these questions here. It's practice, guys. You have to practice it out. So it says for 11 here, it says given A equals this, B equals to this, find AB. This is like a multiple choice question that you can find. And for the test that you guys will be writing later on, I might give you a similar question like this one over here. Where I give you, given A equals to this, B equals to this, and I give you options A, B, C, D. So you just select the correct answer. So in order for you to select the correct answer, you must calculate it somewhere on a piece of paper, and then see if your answer that you have on the piece of paper equals to the answer that is displayed over here, either in A, B, C, or D. All right. So that is like a multiple choice question. These are mostly the type of questions that we will give you for your Google test, which will be on Google Classroom as well. And then, is the product of following matrices of the following pair of matrices defined? Write yes or no. If yes, give the dimensions of the product matrix. So this is also one of the questions we can give you in the test for Google Classroom. So you have to figure out how to do that. And over here, this is just the multiplications, if it's possible. And we can add a question for the test by saying, write down for each of the following, write down the element that is in C3, or write down the element that is in R1, C3, or R1, C2. Then we want a specific number to give it. So you have to multiply it out, and then if it's possible, then you will give us what is the element located at that position, and then you just write down the element from the product, and then in the spaces provided like that. Okay. Yeah. Will the test be timed? Okay, that's a very good question. Yes, the test will be timed. And also note that the examination is also timed. So for the exam, you will probably have like 3 hours, right? So within that 3 hours, we'll give you 2-3 matrix questions that you have to complete, and you also have to do it fast. But for this timing test, we will probably put the tests, maybe let's say start at 12, end at 6. Like we have like half a day to at least try to do it. So half a day means whenever you have time, do it. So if we say we start at 12 and the test ends at 6, Okay, that means 12 o'clock, you can start the test. Maybe you finish the test at, let's say, 1 o'clock, it doesn't matter. But if you start at like 5:15, okay, if you start at 5:15, that means you only have about 45 minutes to do the test. So that is what we will do. So the test we will have by end of, let's say, on Thursday. So we will have the test by Thursday, because we're still practicing through these questions here. I'm not saying that it's finished. I'm just saying today is multiplication. We give you the homework. Tomorrow I will ask you if there's questions about the homework that you don't understand, then we can go through them. Tuesday we do the other thing we said we will do. Wednesday we do the last one. By Thursday there's questions. So on Friday will be the test. Let me just also put in here. Okay, and I will just put it there, 12 to 6. Okay. So I'll just save it there as well, so that it's already on the calculator. So by Thursday, where we do corrections, we'll ask your heart's content, everything else. So test will be exam-based type questions, but you will answer on Google Classroom as well. I think on Thursday, I will have a short demonstration on how we can answer some of the questions, and then you will also be able to do it like that. Right. So this is today's homework. Let me just quickly save that. So that I can see it says matrix multiplication activity 2, save homework. I'm just quickly saving this so that I know I have to upload it correctly on that one. So that is the activity for today. It will be on Google Classroom. Where are we here? Okay. So proceeding with what we had planned later on. We said we want to look at the zero and non-zero matrices as well. Over here, we just have extra things that we need to look at later on. But this is not the zero and non-zero matrices. And for that, I will just come back to this and just say what is a zero matrix. And we said we also want to look at the identity matrix. Okay, so with the identity matrix, we will do a separate lesson on that one, but let's just look at the zero matrix quickly. So a zero matrix, I think I've mentioned something before. A zero matrix is just a matrix that has zeros everywhere. This could be A. B can be equals to this 0, 0, 0, 0. Doesn't matter. Excuse me. It doesn't matter if it's a row matrix, a column matrix, or a 2 by 2 matrix, or 3 by 3 matrix. A zero matrix is just everything in that matrix is zero. Okay. So whatever your answer is for a zero matrix, that is basically what we have. All right. So these are all zero matrices. All right. So if it's one matrices ones, then it means that everything in this matrix where you have a zero, it will now just be 1, 1, 1. All right. That just means it's a one matrix. Okay. All right. That is the only differences between a zero matrix and a one matrix. And this is quite important also for us to note, because we will be using this to help us identify the next bit of topics that we will be covering regarding this matrices objectives and things that we have to do. So the identity matrix, we will talk about it again. So in the matrix forms, we have a singular and a non-singular matrix. So with this singular matrix, things that we're talking about, this is now like the 0 matrices and the 1 matrices, because everything in that matrix is just one number. Okay, it's like singular. Non-singular means we have different numbers. Adjoint of a matrix and its properties. What is an adjoint or matrix adjoint? Then we are also going to look at an inverse of a matrix and its properties. Solutions for simultaneous linear equations, matrix methods, and then we have an exercise. So this is the next things we want to do before Friday's test as well, right? So a square matrix is said to be a singular matrix if the size of the matrix is 0, and a non-singular matrix is if the size of the matrix is not a 0, right? So that means all the elements, if we add them up, it doesn't give us a 0, right? And sometimes if we say this is A, right, and we add the magnitude or the size of the matrix here, we get a 0. Okay, if we add these things up in this way, then this becomes a singular matrix. All right. Just take note. We are going to look at how these calculations came to be, also so that we have an idea of what is going on here as well. So this is another lesson. It says this one we have 7 minutes left, and I don't know now if we have enough time to go through all of these things, because the next topic is what does this lines mean over here in the matrix, right? So this over here is the determinant of a matrix. So I would like you guys to bear with me another few minutes so that we can just look at the determinant of a matrix and explain how did we come up with this calculation over here to end up with a 0. So the determinant of a matrix is what we also need to look at. So if possible, I would ask that you guys reconnect again, because we only have about 6 minutes left, and then we can just quickly look at a determinant of a matrix, and then I think that will be the end of today's lesson, if that's okay with you guys still.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's quickly reconnect. I will stop this session.